Hey there, avid listeners. Thanks again for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the Left-Handed Booksellers of London. I've heard a lot of great things. Sorry, I'm recovering over a cold. So I'm probably going to be really congested. But anyway, this is by Garth Nix. And I've heard a lot of good things about Garth Nix. Unfortunately, this is the second book of his I've read in the past year. And you know what? I haven't really been thrilled by his writing style. The last book I read of his was Angel Mage. And I was kind of so bored of that novel. It felt like it took forever to develop. I mean, the pace was just dragging. And the same can be said for this book. Really, what it came down to was the dialogue. I was not a fan of the dialogue at all whatsoever. It was really distracting because there were so many ellipses in the storytelling. They drove me nuts. I mean, one sentence is going on for 3 lines because ellipse here, ellipse here, ellipse here. And I just oh my God, you can't just tell a story, or you can just have a character talk without breaking out into ellipses all the time. It was very annoying, and it was just the characters kind of figuring out, trying to say what they need to say. It wasn't because they had a disability or a stutter. I've read books this past year. I read 4 books where characters have a stutter. I was not bothered by that at all. It's a letter and then a hyphen and then the word, and sometimes it's 2 letters, hyphen, hyphen, H hyphen, hence, for example. Hyphens and stuttering in storytelling don't bother me at all. But these ellipses, this guy, Merlin, because yes, his name is Merlin. Oh my God. He was just so annoying. And I mean it. He was annoying in the way he talked. He wasn't annoying as a character. And I'll talk a little bit more of that in a little bit, but his dialogue was just so distracting, and once again it really slowed the pacing down. Now, it happened the most with Merlin, but it did happen with other characters as well, which is another reason why I wasn't able to lose myself in the story. When all the characters are talking and every page you've got this one sentence being dragged out by ellipses, you kind of lose interest because you're slowing down the pace so drastically. I hate to say it, but I think Nix's work is just not for me, because this is what I had with the other story, Angel Mage. I felt like the story just dragged along, and I felt like the pacing was just so excruciatingly slow. Even during those high tension moments, it just seemed to last forever. Sorry. And I feel like the same goes on with this novel. I mean, it would be okay if it happened every so often. I understand it. You're in this mystical world and you're trying to explain to someone who apparently has fey blood. You're trying to explain to them your world. So I can understand the ellipses every so often. But geez, every page? It was just really tiresome. It was very tedious. I was not a fan of it personally. Now, I have to say, I did like the storytelling. I think this is something why I'm always giving Garth Nix books a chance, because he does write this world that I completely would love to read about. He writes a lot of high fantasy novels that I could see myself enjoying. But that just wasn't the case with this novel, unfortunately. I do like how this book, takes us back in time to London during, like that punk rock era. I liked the era. I like how the story loses itself in kind of old world London as well. Like, you're in like Doc Martens and punk era London right now. That's where we are. But then when you get to this fantasy world, it looks a lot like old fantasy, like Merlin and classic Merlin, not this Merlin and King Arthur. I mean, that's the feel it gives the reader, which I thought was really engaging overall. I enjoyed that part of the storytelling. Pardon me, sorry. I'm going to try to cut this to the chase because talking this much is so not great for my congestion. But, I really did like that old world feel for the fantasy. And I really do think he has a talent for writing fantasy. I just think I think the pacing is just not for me. I like I don't mind slow paced stories. I've read a few, but I feel like it has to match kind of the story or the events going on. And here, the story moves pretty quickly, but it just feels like it drags on because of the dialogue. Like, some of these scenes, like, I wanted these characters, like, just spit it out already and move on. That was me in my head. I'm like, oh my God, just spit it out already. And that's what really bothered me. It was really just that dialogue, and it was really just that slow pacing, because this is definitely, it has the energy, or the feel rather, of a high stakes, fast paced story, given the events, everything going on. I'm just not able to lose myself in that pacing because I feel like it just drags forever. Another hindrance to me was the characterization. Other than Merlin, whose name I remembered because, come on, Merlin? That's not a forgettable name. I really couldn't remember any of these characters' name. I felt like they were so on the surface. I mean, Susan, she's not memorable. And the only thing I remember about her is her punk rock style and her Doc Martens, because she's always commenting on her Doc Martens about how muddy they're getting and how dirty they're getting. I get it. You really like your Doc Martens. Trust me, I get it. Doc Martens are awesome. But this is pretty much all I remember of her. I don't remember her personality. I don't remember anything about her description. Her, kind of hair she had. Her eye color. Her skin tone. Was it olive? Was she Caucasian? Like, did she have... was she dark skin, light skin? I don't remember anything about her. Nothing. It just kind of fades in the background. Even though the story is about her, I think Merlin really shined. Once again, yeah, I know, Merlin. I was annoyed by his dialogue, but I did love his flamboyant attire. And I did love how he was very gender fluid, how he would dress in dresses, I like Merlin. I like Merlin more as a character than I did Susan, because Merlin's actually memorable. First, he has that name. When he's not stammering and dragging out his sentences, I really do think Merlin is a great character. Because he is really flamboyant. Like I said, he is flamboyant. He is energetic. I definitely remember him being energetic. But other than that, given the name Merlin, I expected a little bit more, something more impressive from him, other than the constant stuttering and stammering. And honestly, oh God, I wish I had loved this book. I really wanted to love this book. I thought, oh, hey, here's a book I'm going to love. And it fell flat for me, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this book 2 stars. I know a lot of you are probably Garth Nix fans. You're like, how dare you? I'm sorry. His stuff, I'm just discovering, is not for me. I'm not a fan of his pacing. I'm not a fan of his characterization. The same thing. Pretty much everything I felt with Angel Mage, I'm feeling now. Just kind of, it's an unmemorable story for me that just fell flat. And I really wanted to like this book. I really did. It had all these elements that I thought I was going to be in love with. But, no, unfortunately not. However, that's just me. If you're a Garth Nix fan, go ahead and check it out. Just because I don't like it, you might, especially if you're a Garth Nix fan, you're already used to his writing style. You're probably going to love it, honestly. But for me, this is a 2-star book. Unfortunately. Now, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Please do not forget to like this podcast and share it with all your book-loving friends. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. And as always, happy reading.